welcome back to my YouTube channel, The Tech Jupiter. I welcome you all to our series of MySQL. So today's topic that we're going to discuss is keys. And in keys, we're going to discuss about primary key, candidate key, and the foreign key. So let's begin the lecture. So we have basically keys. So in SQL, the keys basically play a very crucial role in database. They uniquely identify any record. So in the database, they help us to uniquely identify any record, and apart from that, they help us to establish the relationships between the tables. So now, as you can see, I have two tables, which is one of them is employee and the other one is student. So if I go with the employee table, in the employee table I do have the attributes such as employee ID, name, address, designation. So all of these can become either the candidate key, they can become the foreign key, they can become the primary key, depending on the criteria if they come under those criteria. Similarly, in the student table, we do have the name of the student, we have the admin ID, we do have the roll number, we do have the address, we do have the course. So all of these things can fall into any of those primary key, candidate key, or the foreign key, depending on the criteria. So let's discuss about the primary key. So what is primary key? It is the first key to identify one and only one instance of an entity uniquely. Now you might be thinking what uniquely means. So for example, let's discuss about this particular table itself. So now in the employee table, I have employee ID, I have employee name, I have the passport number, I have the Aadhaar number, which is in India, and SSID number in America. So let's discuss more about it now. So you can see in the employee table, we have employee ID. Now, if I say employee name, right? Let's first take the example of employee name. Now, if I say I have an employee name, if I say in a company, we have an employee with name George in one department. We might have another person with the name George in another department, or maybe in the same department as well. So it is not unique. The name is not unique, right? If I move to the employee ID will be given to one employee, and that employee ID cannot be given to any other employee. This is something which is unique, which is having one-to-one relationship with the another person or with another entity maybe. So if it is having one-to-one relationship and it's not given to anyone else, then we can say it's unique. It's a special thing, fine, right? Now, if I move to you can say that passport number, right? Passport number can also be unique. Also, Aadhaar number or maybe the SSID number can also be the uniquely identified, right? It is uniquely defined. But many people might not have the passport number. Just imagine a person didn't apply for the passport number and he didn't provide the passport number. So that is null. That value will be null or blank. So you can see the second criteria is it shouldn't be null. Similarly, if I go with the SSID number, maybe if there is an employee who is working in another country, he's not citizen of that country, so he won't have the SSID number there, right, with respect to that particular country. So in the similar way, he won't provide that. Again, it will be a null. So only one thing that is uniquely identifying and is not null here in this particular case is the employee ID. So employee ID will become the primary key and will help us to uniquely identify the employee, right? Move to the next topic, which is the candidate key. So you can see it's basically an attribute or set of attributes that can uniquely identify a record, right? So now you might be thinking, why set of attributes? So basically, if I take this example, which we have right now, so you can see the employee table is having the phone number, it's having the employee ID, it's having the employee name, the passport number, the Aadhaar, or maybe the SSID number. So if I go ahead and say that employee name will not be unique, right? So we discussed it in the previous lecture that, or in the previous topic, that it cannot be unique. Now if I go with a phone number, yes, it can be unique. Phone number can be unique. Passport number, yes, it can be unique, right? Similarly, SSID number can also be unique. We know that any of these can become the uniquely identified. They can be uniquely identified and can help us to identify the record, right? Now, if I say that phone number again will not become the primary key. Why? Because maybe the phone number is not provided, or maybe the phone number is not correct, or maybe two people are working in the same organization from the same family, and they both have provided the same number. Similarly, employee name, as we discussed, employee 1 having the name George, employee 2 having the name George, they both are not unique, right? Similarly, the passport number might be provided or might not be provided, right? Aadhaar number might be there or might not be there, right? So anything, now you can say here in this particular thing is candidate key, right? These all are candidate keys. Now employee ID became a primary key. So if I say anything except the primary key becomes, or you can say any other attribute, right? Any attribute which except the primary key. So any attribute which is left over and doesn't become the primary key is basically the candidate key. So you can say except the primary key, the remaining attributes are considered as candidate keys. So here we can say phone number, yes, it can become a candidate key. Passport number and Aadhaar number can become the candidate key for us. Let's move to our last topic, which is basically the foreign key. So what does the foreign key mean? Foreign keys are the columns of the table used to point to the primary key of another table. Now you can see we have a table which is the employee table. Another one is the department, right? So the employee table is having attributes such as employee ID, name, address, designation, department ID. And in the department table, we have department ID, department name, department location. So if you see here, employee name ID is basically a primary key, right? And this, in this particular case, employee ID, the department ID is the primary key for this particular table. Now, if I say what the definition means, it is basically the column of the table used to point to the primary key of the another table. So if I say this thing, that we will have like this, you can say the department, in a department table, this department ID is the primary key, and here in this employee table, this is the department ID, which is not basically the primary key, right? And it is pointing, or it's making a relationship between these two tables. So this department ID, this one, is basically pointing towards the primary ID, primary key of the department table. So this becomes the foreign key. This one is the foreign key of in the employee table. If you see, we have this department ID which becomes the foreign key and is basically pointing to the primary key of the another table. So with this, our lecture ends here. So if you really like the video, please go ahead and like the video, share the video with your nears and theirs, and help them to grow. Thank you. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.